Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life number 199. Here we are, the 28th of April, 2021. Welcome to the show. We're almost at episode 200. That's next week. So get ready for that. But we have got a great show for you tonight. We've got a ton of news. Is not a surprise. Always have news on Tesla every single week. Doesn't matter what week it is. But we got some extra news this week. Yes. And joining us, as always, we have our panelists. We have Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the Pacific West area. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Hello, brothers and sisters of the Tesla Nation. Welcome to the Tesla Life, where we strive for a future free from fossil fuels.
Yes. Got it in early. Fantastic.
Yes.
Also with us, as per usual, we have Mr. Casey Green joining us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
Doing pretty well. Slight programming note, we did a live stream on Monday on my channel. If you want to see the video there, you can check it out. But what I'm going to do for the podcast listeners is there's going to be a special episode. It's going to be, 199?
198.5.
198.5, and that's going to be the podcast version of that stream. So if you're on the podcast, just go back one, check it out, and then finish up this one as well.
Sounds like a rockin' radio station. 198.5
right?
Coming at you live.
198.5 Tesla Financials. Did we fill all the slots for the guests?
We have a couple guests confirmed,
right.
But we have room for a couple more. So if you out there would like to join us on episode 200 to talk a little Tesla, we would love to have you join us. So please send us a note either in the notes section below, or send us a note on Twitter or our email address. We'd love to have you join, especially some of the regulars out there that are with us every week. This is your chance. Just to join us and talk a little bit about Tesla and how what your life is about according to Tesla, how you got involved, why you like it, what your plans are. So we'd love to hear from you.
Yep, and JT24 is the first in the chat. Howdy.
Cool.
JT.
Hey, JT.
How you doing? So with that, we're going to kick this week's episode off with the biggest story, of course, of the week, yes. Which was, of course, the earnings call, which happened this past Monday. And we, as Casey mentioned, did a live stream on Casey Green's YouTube channel. You can check that out. But we've got a bunch of information relating to that. I think I'll start off with, of course, this is now the 7th consecutive profitable quarter for Tesla. So again, that's almost approaching 2 years now of consecutive profitable quarters. They brought in 10.389 billion with a B in revenue. And that relates to, of course, 0.93 cents profit per share non GAAP. So fantastic numbers. Again, it's surprising, but in a first quarter, which is typically the worst quarter you have of the year in the car business, they had an all-time record high across the board. This is a 74% year-over-year growth compared to Q1 last year. So comparing quarters, this was a special quarter for them. Records across the board, best quarter ever in deliveries, in production, and in a quarter one was something that was very unusual for someone in the car business. But as we've said before, Tesla's really not just in the car business, are they? They've got a few other irons in the fire that are a little bit different than other traditional automotive sector incumbents.
For sure.
With that, what else, guys? What are some of the other things that you guys wanted to touch upon that were announced during the earnings call?
The AI company.
So
AWS of AI.
expand upon autonomous. What do you think, Aaron?
The they have so much capability coming online with Dojo that somebody had asked them if they plan to make that available as AI as a service, and Elon didn't rule it out. So that's exciting to see what they could do with that. And they went in to explain that that also plays into why he thinks that they don't need radar, and just the sheer power of both onboard on the cars and in the cloud. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. That one was a little more uh, longer play question, but it was exciting to me. As well as they mentioned that the batteries, the 4860s are not really going anywhere yet. 4680s, yes.
Yes. Yeah. So on the Dojo topic, the question I thought was pretty smart in that they compared it to Amazon Web Services. So Amazon didn't start building a data center because they wanted to make a business out of it. They started building a data center because they needed one to run their business. And then had this idea of, well, we're busy during certain times of the year, but not all the time. And so we have this excess capacity. Maybe we could sell it. And that became, which now is one of the biggest parts of Amazon's business. It might even end up spinning out into its own company. Who knows? So Tesla's in a very similar situation. They couldn't go buy this off the shelf. It doesn't exist. They've had to build it themselves. And we know that AI training is going to become more and more important going forward for a lot of businesses. They're going to need to have big data analysis done and AI engines trained to get essential core parts of their business done. And if they can rent that from Tesla, run their analysis on it, program their systems with the resulting neural net, and then run that, and then do this periodically, that could be a great business, especially if Tesla's able to do it better, faster, cheaper than anybody else. And they've had to home grow it, and so yeah, maybe they can in the future somehow monetize that. The thing that I thought was cool out of it was Model Y expected to be the world's best-selling car of all time, possibly as early as 2022. That seems optimistic, but how many? So, what is the best-selling car today? Not counting trucks, just passenger vehicles.
Well, it's still the F-150.
Yeah, not counting trucks. Is it like a Toyota Camry or something? How many of those are sold worldwide?
Well, we probably want to compare it to like the CRV and the RAV4.
Well, he's just saying for numbers. What kind of numbers would that have to be in order to be, the number one selling car in the world?
Yeah, JT is saying Camry for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm looking it up, and it's depending on what year, anywhere from 300 to almost 400,000 sold per year.
They're all over it.
Yeah. So I mean, think about Tesla only made about 500,000 cars in 2019, and now they're talking in 2022 making 400,000 of just the Model Y, and then you have 100,000 S and X on top of that, and a couple 100,000 threes, and who knows how many Cybertrucks and how many semis. That could
speaking of X and S,
looks exciting.
Yeah, speaking of X and S, they said that they plan to actually produce more of them after it finishes opening back up than they did before it shut down, because they were at a steady 2,000 a week for 2-3 years in a row, and now we're talking at 2,000 being the minimum, which is exciting. So
they also touched a little bit. We're kind of jumping around, but that they touched a little bit on the S and the X when it comes to the amount of the issues they're having with the delay. They touched a little bit about how the supply chain has been difficult, and they had indicated that, of course, the S would have already been released, which it has not been. Tesla's storing a number of the cars on site at Fremont as they're working through a few issues. Elon had indicated in the call that he expects the S to be released next month, May, and the the X would follow suit in a further month down the road this year. But there has been an issue, and he wasn't indicating as to exactly what that issue is. Is it the chip issue that the world has seen? Is it something else? Is it a combination of things? He had indicated that they're working through some things, and that has contributed to the delay.
Of all the things that he brought up, I'm wondering if it wasn't a multi-combo, because you're ramping what is essentially a new car with a mostly existing shell. I say mostly because they turned it into a gigacasting as well when they were in there. But it didn't seem like obtaining the chips was the hard part for them once they got the chips, but the fact that they ran different software and different firmware than the existing chips. And so they had to get them done. And then the way that it was put out, it seems like they feel that they are through that now, and that we should be able to see them, like you said, next month. So hopefully it's not a case of him being optimistic, and that's very realistic, and that we see these cars starting to hit the ground.
And to Patrick's point, Tesla also released a graphic showing that the Model 3 is now the world's highest selling premium vehicle. Electric or not. Yeah. So they compared it, of course, to the model. I'm sorry, the BMW 3 Series and the Audi and the Mercedes 3. And they looked at those figures, and of course that has shown that Model 3 in about 3.5 years has completely surpassed the competition and is now reigning #1 in that listing. So Patrick's point about the Model Y expected to be the world's best-selling car of all time, possibly in 2022, if not 2023, very achievable. The Model 3, what it's done in its short time, and now seeing that the Model Y is even selling more than the Model 3 in a number of markets, including California.
And with
very
all
possible.
This, remember, the Model Y only comes from Fremont right now. So you've got 3 Gigafactory class lines about to open up worldwide on Model Y alone. This is gonna be something else this year.
Yeah. Open a can and whoop ass on the market right there. So yeah, Mark, you mentioned how Q1 is usually seasonally low, and for Tesla have that be their best quarter ever in some metrics is impressive. But you also have to add on top of that the chip shortage, which you just mentioned. That meant that they had to expedite some parts from their suppliers, and when you do that, you pay them extra money to stand up new lines, to fast ship things. So while they're doing all this hot lots and expediting, they're paying more, yet they're still coming out profitable. And all this while the pandemic's not exactly over. So so all these things that were hindrances slowing them down, they still pushed through and kicked ass. That's just amazing.
There's another option is that they could just put their contracts a little longer than typical, and make their orders a little bigger than typical as well, to help soften the blow of that on-demand fee.
And that's interesting too that you mentioned that, Patrick, because the Tesla had indicated in this earnings call that the gross margin of their cars have increased. So they've been able to reduce costs in the building of those vehicles on top of everything. So you're right, they might have been paying a little bit more to maybe ship and get things to different factories at different times. But overall, they're able to get the costs down and get some more efficiencies on the builds of these cars, so that the profit is growing on each of these sales as well.
Right.
And then you mentioned supplies again. They put in an order for as many batteries as their suppliers could possibly put out. Somebody was complaining, "Oh yeah, see the demand is dropping, blah blah blah." But they put in 100% increase in battery orders. So I mean, is this
not maybe the third time we've heard this from Elon publicly, where he has put a call out to all battery manufacturers to produce and sell Tesla as much as they can at a reasonable cost, of course,
Yeah.
that they're willing to buy all of it.
Yeah.
Because they know, again, they are battery constrained and have been now for over a year. So with the volumes increasing, here on this show, we've guessed that Tesla in 2021 will sell somewhere between 900,000 and 1.1 million, we believe, vehicles that will be sold in 2021. So that is more than possibly doubling what they did last year. So they need every spare battery they can get. And there's Elon again, standing on his soapbox saying, hey, we're not trying to put you out of business. We want to buy whatever you make. Get it to us.
And he's saying
production.
that with the existing orders for double the batteries from the existing suppliers, he still wants more. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's not confidence.
And that kind of leads into one of the other stories about the earnings call, and we were kind of surprised that there was some talk about the 4680 production happening, of course, in that Cato Road, I guess, pilot plant in Fremont area.
Yeah.
That is making these 4680s. Elon is not satisfied with, I guess, the makeup of those batteries quite yet, because he has not been putting them in cars. He is not at this point confident to put them in cars. He says they're close, but at this point, he does not want to place them in cars. So we had discussed many times previous about what were they doing with these batteries being made at the pilot plant, the 10 gigawatt battery plant, the biggest in the world for a pilot plant. Were they storing them? Were they getting ready to maybe to ship them to Europe for the start of the Model Y in Berlin? Were they saving them for the Semi? Were they going to be using them in Texas for the Cybertruck or the Model Y? But apparently, they're not using these at all. They're continuing to, I guess, rework the formula, get it to a power, threshold that they need to get. So, and the timing, of course, was also interesting, where he said that they are still probably 12 to 18 months away. And how does that connect with what's going on with the completion of the plants in Berlin and Texas? That's much further out than when those plants are going to be done. So where does that lead us?
Well, I did see a blurb from LG today saying that they are producing 4680s. I don't know of any other customer who uses those. So it's probably the existing chemistry in the bigger can for these cars that need it, or anything that needs it.
But would you not think that Tesla has supplied LG and other groups like Panasonic that has agreed to make the 4680? Wouldn't you think that the formula would be coming from Tesla?
Oh, of course, because currently the Panasonic cells are actually Tesla's formula, and LG has made cells for the Roadster twice, and they make stationary cells, and so LG is definitely a Tesla partner. So
yeah,
to see them announce that they're making 4680s and
so
to know that nobody else is using them.
How could Tesla give LG a formula that they're not currently happy with internally at their pilot?
I think it's just the size of the can, because remember, he's got the high nickel, the high iron, and then he's got the 2170s and the 18650s and the 4680s. So I think this is just the can size with one of the existing formulas rather than the new can and the new formula.
And maybe LG's not doing the tablets or some other things and that's
Right.
what's holding up Tesla. They want to get that just right, and they can build them, sure, but they can't get. They want 99.98 yield. They
Right.
don't want to have a lot of throwaway batteries coming off the line that
Yeah,
don't pass test.
and they certainly want a production amount as well, some sort of a volume that they're going to be expecting.
Yeah, because if they're using the existing formula and construction, but in the bigger cell, that could very easily be a Model Y, Model 3 piece for, just Model Y for Berlin and Shanghai.
Yeah, I've been making the assumption, I don't know if this is true, that the 4680 is what's going into the Cybertruck and the Semi.
There's no reason not to suspect that, because that's what they've been hinting at us. Like every time they show the new formula and the new cell, it's always underneath a semi and a Cybertruck on the charts.
Exactly. Yeah, they're high nickel requirement vehicles, the ones that are going to tow and haul.
Yes.
Hmm.
And that need the better cooling and all that come with it. So.
Right. So yeah, I hope this doesn't mean Cybertruck is delayed. They have to get some Cybertrucks out this year, otherwise I lose a beer bet to Russell, and I don't want to have that happen.
Personally, for me, it just gives me more time to save for my Cybertruck, because when he moved the one I want up, it overlapped it with the current car, and I want the current car to be paid off before I start on the new one. But
Casey, you spending thousands of dollars is far less important than me owing Russell one beer.
Get your priorities straight, man. Yeah. So yeah, we got problems, definitely. We got some serious problems to work out here, timing wise. But yeah, it is interesting that the 4680 is not at that level yet that Elon's satisfied with it. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and of course, with multiple plants about to open, we hope at near the end of this year, there's a number of things that Tesla has to corral, because of course you don't want a plant being completed and not to start to push out those cars in mass. So is there going to be different battery configurations? Is there going to be different battery suppliers? Are we going to have the Model Y that has the casting front, the casting back, as well as the integrated battery piece that is one solid piece with the batteries placed in it? That's that was one of the big selling features of the new plant producing the Y.
Yeah, if they built the plant for the 4680 cans, I suggested on the Monday call that they could ship them in from either New York or Nevada with the single piece castings, just fill containers full of them, but with the 2170s inside. But just now I'm wondering if they would be compatible with the prismatic cells from the standard range in China, where they've got the prismatic cells. They're rectangular, not round. Could they be cast in place? I mean, you would need different machines, but it might be worth it.
I wonder how much is really in flux. Obviously, we're not going to get an answer, but with the little nuggets that we get from information that's spread out by Tesla, there seems to be a few holes, but obviously we don't know the complete picture.
Yeah. Hockey Day says, at least you don't owe him a Tesla tequila, Patrick.
That's right. I've got one right there, and he can't have any. He gave me some real crap about. He's like, "You have too much money. I can't believe you bought that. I can't believe I got lucky enough to be able to get it."
Right. I tried to get a matching set to go with the original one, and by the time I clicked on it, it was sold out. So
it's gone. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
One other item that I wanted to touch upon during the earnings call also was about solar.
We should talk about that.
Tesla Energy is now bundling solar with a Powerwall. So the only way you can get a Powerwall is to buy a complete system. Solar panels and Powerwalls are now bundled together. And that most likely, it wasn't said explicitly, but most likely that's because, again, Tesla is battery constrained. If you have a limited amount of Powerwalls, who are you going to sell them to first? Probably people that are buying your solar product as well. It just makes sense. And that seems to be what is going on now with this new bundling requirement.
And then Elon also suggested it makes it more of a turnkey drop-in solution, because on the other side of the meter, like in between the meter and the current box, you'll stick the Powerwalls and the energy gateway. And then everything on the outside stays the same. And then you put your solar on the roof and stick it straight into the gateway and Powerwalls. And then you stick the existing meter into the gateway and Powerwalls. And so literally you're making minimal modifications to the system.
Right.
Which speeds the install.
Makes it easier for the install, and makes it a repeatable thing for the installers. They're always doing the exact same thing.
Yep. And then he also suggested that there'd be minimal interfacing of energy coming out of your system into the grid, which I think is a response to all of these utilities that are losing their minds. Thankfully, my utility appears to have lost their bid to become a franchisor of the sun, to make me have to pay my franchise fee to them for the sun.
Yeah, that was insane.
But
I can't believe they
yes,
even tried it.
well, it worked in Alabama.
Wow.
They succeeded. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so that
hopefully
makes
they
sense.
continue to lose.
Right. Yeah, and if they don't, and you have a Powerwall, well, you can decide whether or not you want to feed the grid or how much you want to feed into the grid. If they're insane, then you just you can act accordingly to not deal with insane people. And
Yep.
yeah,
If your meter never spins backwards, then you're never a contributor.
right, yeah, and having Powerwalls allows you to make that choice. I
Make
think
it stand
you're
still.
right, Mark. They're battery constrained. They're going to give them to these customers that are already buying solar. They already have the crew on site. They're doing an install. This actually makes the install easier. It increases the revenue from that job in site installation. Tesla Energy is still struggling. If you go through their financials, they're not a profitable portion of the company, even though they've had some really big deals. And with I recently there have been several solar roof installs in my area, and we all got together and talked about solar. And some of them took weeks just to do the installation. So I mean, they have a crew of 8, 10 people on your site for 3 or 4 weeks. That's a lot of money that they're spending on salaries compared to a normal install that can be done in a day. So
especially when their budget is 1 or 2 days, period, and
right.
that's substantially longer than 1 or 2 days.
Yes, exactly. And so that makes sense why they jacked the price up on the solar roof. They are trying to push that into a profitable state. They're going to continue to refine the process. They just changed the non-solar panels from being glass to being a textured metal that looks like the solar glass panels. And
Oh wow!
yeah, and that'll drastically speed up installation because it's a lot easier to cut to form. And this is what you're doing in the non-solar part. So it's going around chimneys and in corners and in weird spots. And if you can just cut that with tin snips instead of trying to score it and snap it, and how many did you break before you got one that was actually right?
Right. Plus,
It'll
if
be a
you
whole
if
lot
you
easier.
miscut metal, it's a lot easier than if you miscut the glass, and then you could easily either put it in another place or clean it up.
Right.
But the glass, once it shatters, it's done.
Yes. Yeah. So that'll speed up a lot of installs there, and hopefully, I mean, because this is what we want. We want a profitable business that they can sell a lot of these to a lot of people. And right now, it's starting with a high price, and that was the same thing they did with their cars, right? They started at $100,000, not because they thought that was going to be a huge market, but because that's what the technology could afford. And so Solar Roof is starting at the same high price point, and as they continue to march down the economies of scale and reduce the price, it'll be able to become more affordable.
Yeah. Right now, they're at the Tesla Roadster phase of
Yeah,
development.
that's a great analogy. I think that Tesla people will understand. You
Yeah.
started at the top because that's what the market would bear, and that's where the technology could be affordable.
Yep.
There were other car companies that tried to start at the low end, or even in the middle, and then there was one that they converted. Was it a Scion XB or something like
Yes.
that? Yeah,
AC propulsion with the Xbox.
yeah, it's a $70,000 car that looks like a $30,000 car.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not just nobody's going to, well, other than people who care about the environment and had a lot of money. That's a small overlap, right? So instead, if you make a really cool sports car that happens to be electric, that is a much bigger audience, and then you work your way down from there.
Yep. So then we see the Tesla Model S of solar roofs, and then by the time we get to the Tesla Model 3 of solar roofs, we'll probably see them get rid of the retrofit panels, except for in a few cases.
Right. That would make sense when we finally get to the Model 3 of solar roof, which
yes,
could be a few generations away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super happy with my Powerwall. It's I go on about it and on about it. Mark's like, God, Pat, you're just obsessed with this thing. So I won't talk about it now because I've eaten up way too much airtime on past shows.
Did you
I'll
find
just
out
let
if
our
yours
viewers know that Patrick is probably looking at the app in between takes. So he's,
right? Did you find out if yours is one of the ones manufactured to have the power boost?
I did not. Yeah, like I said, the power boost is pretty relevant to me. With 3 Powerwalls, we use 2 or 3 kilowatts most of the time, and with 3 I can go to 15 even without the power boost. So, I mean, if the difference between 15 that I never use and 20 that I really never use.
exactly.
What, you might never need 50 kilowatts at once?
All at once? Nope, probably not.
You charge the Model S and the Model X, cook a pie, heat the pool.
Right, yeah.
And run 3 extension cords from the neighborhood. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, with that,
but there though, it might actually help for people who don't need as much storage but do need more kick to start their air conditioners and such.
Yes.
That might allow them to save, like I said, the batteries and the cost for the customer and the batteries for Tesla, by only putting in 2 or 1 Powerwall instead of 2 or 4.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have 1 Powerwall and you have an air conditioner, they're probably going to install a current inrush limiter, sometimes called a soft start or a sure start. And now with that boost, they might not need that. Yeah. That'll speed up their install. 1 less part, less labor. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
With that, we'll move on to our next story, and that is that Tesla has opened up a new avenue for customers to access the data recorder inside their Tesla vehicles. So this, of course, comes to light when people are in an accident. There needs to be some sort of, I guess, accounting of what the vehicle was doing before or during or after the accident. This recorder, of course, is recording throttle position, speed of the car, airbag deployment, seat belts that were buckled or unbuckled, position of the steering wheel. All this stuff is recorded in the car, and this data recorder is going to allow customers to be able to pull that data out of their own vehicles and use it in whatever way they see fit. So this is going to be a piece of software that you can access with a PC through a port in the car, and you'll be able to download this information, obviously with some help of someone who's done it before. Probably a novice that's never done it certainly would not know the first thing about this, but there are ways that people can get this information out as individuals now, whereas before it didn't exist.
Would have saved that guy in the parking garage $1,300.
Exactly.
So the only thing about this story that confused me is what's new about it. I went through the archive.org and the site hasn't changed since they announced it last year.
Maybe it's a more of a publication to let people know that it does exist because of some of these other accidents that have been happening and the stories about people wanting their data. Maybe it's more of a publicity to let people know that this is available for your car. You have to have the proper machinery to pull it out, and the software is available free to download from Tesla.
Yeah, that might be part of it too, because the software, I don't know.
Software free.
That might be what's different. The software might be free.
Yeah, I haven't looked at this lately, but last time I did, several years ago, that there was software that you had to license from Tesla, and it was there was a pretty expendy fee on it, and it was really only thousands for garages and professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is, like you said, an awareness campaign plus a reminder that it's now free. I think when they did it late last year, it was free, but the only thing you really have to come up with is the interface tools, unless you happen to have them laying around for whatever reason. Hopefully not. The other reason that I think it comes up as well is, as Mark mentioned, a lot of people are starting to ask for their data, and unless you're in California or one of the GDPR states. In like Europe or Australia, they're not going to give it to you. So at this point, if you've got the tools and a Windows laptop, you can do it yourself.
Yeah, with some knowledge.
with some knowledge, you gotta
Yeah.
take get the connection made, and but the cool thing is once you get the software running, it'll make you a nice PDF report showing you all that same stuff that guy in New York paid $1,300 for, and you can just slap it on the desk of the lawyer, and they can make it happen.
Exactly. Well, with that, Casey's going to share a photo for us for our next story. And this, of course, story is concerning the recent Crew Dragon 2 launch that happened last week. And what we've got here is a picture showing the caravan of Model X's that take, of course, the astronauts out to the pad to be loaded into Crew Dragon. And what was kind of cool here was that the custom plates had been changed on these vehicles. You can see that the one that's most easy to see says recycle. So we've got these notifications on these custom plates that are reminding us that SpaceX now is basically recycling some of the astronauts' hardware. So we've got a booster rocket that is being reused. Of course, that's nothing new for the Falcon 9 system, but it is with a crewed flight. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Crew Dragon itself has been repurposed and has launched for a second time. So again, back in the Apollo days, these things were just scrapped or, of course, given to a museum after their use. And that was it. They had one flight and they were done. But of course, in the world of SpaceX, trying to lower that cost of space exploration, the reuse of this equipment is critical. And of course, to this point, no astronauts had been on reused flights until this past mission that brought 4 new astronauts to the International Space Station successfully.
They went for it with this one. They did a reused booster, reused capsule. They reuse the cars.
Yeah. So that's good news for the space program. It allows things to be more economical, which in turn will allow us to have more exploration of space using more of the budget to go further and farther into space and into new endeavors in space. So fantastic, great news, SpaceX. And I only see this getting better and better. And of course, we had mentioned previously that Starship got the green light to be the lunar lander. That's coming up. Another win for SpaceX. And man, the future looks bright, not only for Tesla, but SpaceX as well, as SpaceX is certainly making waves in the space industry.
I wonder if those batteries that they use on the rockets are used or new. That could be another reuse and recycle.
Yeah, I did notice that the cars, their license plate, it was reduce, reuse, recycle, but I didn't catch that was a little Easter egg to these being reused parts.
And, yeah, because they had different plates last time around, if they had any plates.
It's the blue box program of NASA.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, if I were going to be on a rocket, I kind of wouldn't want to be on the maiden voyage of one. I'd want to be on one that I know has worked a time or two.
Yeah.
The maiden voyage just seems like something for test pilots. Maybe I don't want to be on the 1,000th time, but I'll take the 10th. No problem.
Well, with that, Casey's got a story about a new wave sensor. What's that about?
I sure do. So Tesla received approval from the FCC to install millimeter wave radar in their cars. But I thought Tesla was getting rid of radar. So what this is radar facing inside the car. They're going to use it for several different things. They can use it for driver attention monitoring. They can use it for child lock-in situations because it can see through blankets. It can sense heartbeats and respiration. So this sensor does 2 things. It helps avoid media brouhahas like we saw week before last, and it helps with the kids locked in the car situation because after that shareholder conference where the person brought up the story about how their friend lost their kid in the car. Elon got choked up, and within a week we had cabin overheat protection built into the cars in that next firmware update. So this will help them with that mission of Elon promised nobody would ever have that situation in his cars. And there we go.
So with this introduction, it was for the child safety initially.
Yes.
But they're also going. Do you think that are they actually going to use this for a driver monitoring addition as well?
I don't know if it's driver monitoring like the camera, but I mean they could definitely use it for that. But I'm thinking it's more since it's in monitoring every seat. I'm wondering if they're using it for the robotaxi.
And the other thing they could use this for, so if you search for Google Soli, Soli.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen these before, but yeah, so it can read gestures. It can read fine-tuned gestures, like if you want to turn the volume up, you could just do this. If you want to go to the next page, you swipe. And so it could have complex user monitoring in a way that you could use it to interface to your device. So I'm not sure, what all cool things they could do, but if you don't want your users touching the screen while they drive, and one option is voice control, but this is another option, and
and this won't require a server like the voice control does.
Oh right, yeah. So there's a lot of cool things they could do with this. All the things that Casey mentioned, as well as user interface stuff, and it could even extend a meter or two outside of the car, and then you could use it for Sentry mode and whether or not to record. And you could probably get a lot of detailed information about the what the people outside of the vehicle are doing, and decide whether or not you need to alert the owner.
Exactly.
So lots of cool options here.
Another cool thing about it, with it being able to monitor your heartbeat and respiration, it can determine if the driver has become unresponsive because of a medical emergency, and at that point, perhaps if we've got the full self-drive ready to go, they could just drive you to the hospital.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah,
it'd save some lives.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So we'll have to see as these pieces get integrated into the car with this approval by the FCC. It clears Tesla to be able to start to put these items in the car going forward. Next, Patrick's got a story about SNL and a special guest host.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night with your host, Elon Musk. That's right. So Elon Musk is going to be on Saturday Night Live. And that's May 8th with musical guest star Miley Cyrus. So this could be interesting. Musk has there's a lot of things. Well, his public speaking skills are not always great. Sometimes he stumbles in those. I don't know how well he's going to do in skit acting. So that'll be interesting to see.
Probably, yeah, about as well as it was on The Big Bang Theory, where he ate that food out of the tray while he's washing dishes.
Yeah, and when he did voice acting on The Simpsons, it was a little stiff. So we'll see how that goes. But the other interesting thing is Musk is, let's say, a controversial figure. And there are some people that are just upset about him being on this show and wondering why they're pandering to billionaires. And some of the cast members are chiming in and doing some equal billionaire bashing. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I get disliking the guy. I don't understand this raw hatred that people have for him. I mean, all the stuff that people complain about is just relatively minor or an outright lie. If it's true stuff, it tends to be like, oh, you're mad at him for that? You hate him for that? Why not just not like the guy and stop letting him live rent-free in your mind? But when you hate him for stuff that didn't even happen, I mean, you should probably learn what the real story is before you just start hating people.
Or at least send him a bill for that rent. Like, come on.
Right.
I'm definitely going to be watching, though. It should be.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching to see how he does. It's interesting that he seems to be a fun guy. Like he seems to be in all his endeavors. he wants to participate. He wants to try new things, and this is going to be a new thing for him. So we'll have to tune in on May the 8th and see how he does.
Yeah, see
When
if he
they-
does
when
any
they-
dad dancing.
when they made the announcement, it had May 8th, Elon Musk, and then Cyrus there, and I was really hoping that he would be the musician and she would be the host, because that would be it would mix things up.
He could be the techno king. Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. Could have came on stage with the mixer and the Model 3 and
Yeah, there's still time for them to split it. You know, she do the first act, he do the second act.
I wonder if they tried to get Grimes for the musical guest that week.
Oh,
yeah,
that would have been interesting too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
an all home show. Well, with that, another piece of Elon news is that with Tesla, of course, reaching its 7th consecutive profitable quarter, Elon's getting a little closer to his next employment contract payout. And that's a big one. It's $11 billion equivalent. Yeah, that's, we talked about his entrenchment contract that he had got a huge payout just about a year plus ago. This, of course, is the next phase as he's fulfilling the terms that the board put out in front of him that he had to obtain. So he could be in for a very large payout coming shortly. And again, we don't know where Elon's spending his money, but I think it's at Mars. I think that's where he's spending his money.
Yep.
So it's interesting to see that this larger payout is coming his way, and that might be a boost for the SpaceX program as well.
Well, it's not literally cash, right? It's
No.
Tesla's
It's stock.
Yeah.
But as Elon has said, he doesn't sell the stock. All he does is he leverages it with loans. So
Exactly.
he basically loans money with the stock being the asset, and they pay him, with that type of money. So interesting, but a lot of money at play there. One final story for the evening that we wanted to touch upon, because it's something we brought up during the live stream on Monday. I guess a Tesla, someone that's positive about Tesla, got a hold of Elon through Twitter and had asked him about setting up a PR department or person that would be able to, I guess, fight against some of the bad publicity that has happened recently, such as the crash in Houston. And we brought this up on the show just a couple days ago. Elon replied that there's no need to advertise or have a PR spin agent selling Tesla, that he believes that the customers know best, and there's no need to put someone between Tesla and the customer, because the customer can understand what's going on, and they are the ones that ultimately buy the vehicle. So I don't agree with this.
Yeah, in a perfect world,
I still
yeah.
don't. I get that he wants to run this in a certain way, and he's done it, to this point. But I'm starting to think that he's going to have to put some people out there at some point, because there's just a number of detractors out there that, if they're left unattended, can give Tesla a black eye. They're not going to sink the company anymore as they tried to before, but they can give Tesla a black eye, and they don't have to. If you had someone that could put in the positive, interjection of facts or information that allows people to understand why things happen in a certain way.
Well, okay, so I'll take Musk's side on this. If you look at the history of PR, it came out of World War II. These were people who were doing propaganda campaigns and then turned it into marketing. And so it was about manipulating people and getting them to like your product or think a certain way. It was about manipulation. And in a lot of respects, that's what marketing still is today. And if you have someone whose job it is to be PR, well, they're going to come out and have their spin on it, but then that's just going to be, well, of course they do. They work for Tesla. That doesn't necessarily mean what they said is the truth. And instead, if you the fudsters are still going to throw their mudslinging and do that, and instead you let the truth come out instead of just a counterspin. And that, I think that is far more valuable. And that's one of the reasons, like, Musk is not a great speaker, and yet people care what he says, because what he says is more important than the delivery he has behind it. And that's kind of this. You're taking this, poor public speaking ability, and making it part of your company culture.
I would go somewhere in between Musk and a hype man. You need somebody who's skilled at interacting with media, especially media that's getting paid on clicks and has every incentive to twist everything out of proportion. And right now, with the owners as the PR, you're ending up with a lot of them being accused of being Elon fanboys, or worse, you've got whether they're actual musketeers or whether they are false flag events, where you've got some of these folks, they can't take anything that isn't Tesla, and they're sending death threats out to people. So we need something that's a little more professional than that. And these loud individuals are not the whole community by any means. It's just a few individuals, but you've already got them, the folks that are predispositioned against Musk, like the ones that believe the stories of his father, or all the other weird half-truths and lies out there. And then when you add on something that matches their preconceived notions of the company, of the man, of the product, then they just say, oh yeah, it must be true because it's what I think it should be true, and it matches what I think. And so then at that point, it's a lot harder for somebody to show anybody that they are wrong. And worse, like this whole media situation with the Texas crash, you had Consumer Reports out there showing people how to hack the car, and it had actually nothing to do with the incident.
Yes, yeah. If anything, that was pretty irresponsible of Consumer Reports, because now you're showing people how you can defeat this system, and that there's plenty of cars that you could get to do dangerous things if you're willing to go to the links that they were.
Stick a brick on the accelerator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so that was horribly irresponsible of Consumer Reports. But I don't know if Tesla had a PR person, if any of that would have changed. I mean, they would have had a message out there, but lots of people
I don't think
that
stuff will change, Patrick.
It won't change much, yeah.
It will not change. But what would change is that you could have quicker response to something that could put a little bit of water on that fire. You may not put it out, but you could slow it down. And I'm thinking that the people at Tesla could react in a better and faster way. Then they could, provide the truths, could provide the facts to people and let them know that they're coming. Whereas now it's kind of a vacuum. You're not hearing anything until there's a huge hubbub about it on Twitter, or someone has written the fourth article on this and is making accusations. I think that a PR person could be somewhere in between a salesperson and, of course, someone that Elon speaks about is not what he wants. I think you could have somewhere in between. And I think as Tesla grows larger and larger and goes into new markets, I think they need that. I think they need that because the world they're in really requires them to have a quicker answer than what's been going on previously.
And then you'd also get a lot less of these parts of the hit pieces. Oh, the company couldn't be bothered to respond to the media request. Oh, we put it in a request and they don't have a PR department. Oh, we put in a request and we didn't hear from them. And the way they always frame it, it's not like, hey, we did this on a 1 hour reporting cycle. They want you to think that they spent all night working on it, and nobody from the company could be arsed to answer back.
which leads me to our audience. You out there watching this, what do you think? Do you think that Tesla should have a PR department or a person? or a
something
few
in between
to do this, or
Yeah.
something in between. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. This would be an interesting one to crowdsource. Maybe, we're saying it's either this or that, but maybe there's some other idea that nobody else has thought of that Tesla could do that would help make this all a lot better.
Yeah.
And one other thing I'll comment on was that during the earnings call, there was the ability to get questions from retail investors. And they did that through an application where everyone could put in their question and vote the questions up or down based on what people thought the questions were. And one of the questions they wanted answered and got to the top of the list, but Tesla did not answer, was, of course, how can we get notifications to Tesla about things or requirements that we believe the car should have or not have or be modified or things of that nature? They're basically talking about how it's hit or miss with whatever Elon answers to on Twitter. They're hoping that there's some sort of a company forum where people could put in their concerns and they could be elevated to Tesla, as opposed to a note to Elon that may or may not get there. Or may be read or may be ignored. We don't know because we're just on the outside. But that question was not answered. Maybe in the next quarter, when the retail investors get to put in their questions again, that can be pushed to the top of the list again, because I think that's something that would be valuable to Tesla. I think it's something that they may not want to do it for whatever reason at this point, but it certainly would be good for the owners and people that love this company.
Yeah, Hockey Day brings up a good point that even if they did have a PR department, to get any reaction, they might still have to go through Elon approval because of his personality and leadership style. So it might be a waste of a salary, and they still would be right where they are today if he has to go and okay everything individually.
That's true. That's true. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap up. Casey, any shout-outs from you this evening?
Absolutely. So I've got some videos going on my channel, youtube.com/CaseyGreen, and I'm working still on my 2021.4.15 deep dive video. I had a lot of footage, and cleaning it up and figuring out how to present it is taking some time, but you'll see that show up there. Derek Ludwig says it might be a good idea for Tesla to have a small department that could be contacted for statistical information. Yeah, like how many times has it caught fire or crashed or whatever. And then you see that compared to a typical car. Hey, Cobra, just hit rewind and you can catch us there.
Patrick, any shout-outs this evening?
Yes, I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. And I blog at carswithcords.net. My current story up there is 40,000 miles in a Model X, not all at once. And yeah,
I would hope not.
No, yeah. And Saturday morning, the story I have coming out is everything you've ever wanted to know about Powerwalls.
I am there.
It is so long. Oh my God, I could not stop. I was just obsessively dumping information on there.
We will definitely look forward to that. And if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up at this point, and also subscribe if you haven't, because that certainly helps us out, and that allows you to support the show. It doesn't cost you anything, but we would definitely appreciate it. We also want to reach out and thank Lee Moon for the music we use every week. And with that, we'll roll that music and say goodnight, and we will catch you next week on the 200th show and find out what's going on in the Tesla life at that moment in time. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening, or day, or morning, or whatever it is.
Stay positive. That's negative. Bye, everybody.